Hello, my podcasters. We're here again with week 6. Now, I pre record these episodes, so honestly, it kind of feels like I haven't talked to you guys in forever. I haven't sat down and recorded in kind of a long time, so it feels weird. It feels like I haven't had episodes going out, even though I have. And it feels good to be able to sit down and do this. It's taken me a lot to get here because when I tell you, sometimes I have these seasons in my life where I have the worst luck ever and I feel like the universe is out to get me. And that's been my life for the past couple weeks. So, speaking of that, I am not the type of person that watches my language around my son or, kind of like watches that type of tone or what have you. So a lot of F bombs have been dropped, a lot of swear words have been dropped due to my frustration. And that's kind of what led me here today in doing this podcast because the other day I didn't even see what happened, but I heard something drop or something and he goes, "Oh, damn it." And I kind of looked at him and I said, "What'd you say?" He goes, "Damn it, look what just happened." And I'm at this point like wanting to laugh so bad. And then, my parent brain kind of kicked in. Like, do I like tell him he can't swear? Do I ask him why? Like, in my brain, I'm quickly processing, okay, how do I want to handle this? How do I want to handle this? And I have to do it quickly, right? And so I just said, "Oh, are you frustrated?" And he said, "Yes, I'm frustrated." And I'm like, "Okay, why are you frustrated?" And something about the TV, or he dropped something, or I don't know. But looking back on it, I've read some parenting, like maybe not tips, but like parenting decisions where their kids don't get in trouble for swearing. And I've came to the conclusion that I might be one of those parents. And here's why. Because they hear us using those words as a frustration. And at the end of the day, it's just a word. At the end of the day, that's how we're getting our frustration out or anger out with, "Oh, fuck," or "damn it," or "shit," or whatever. And if my kid wants to get his frustration out with a word that doesn't harm anybody versus using physical aggression or something that could harm someone or what have you, like, I will choose him swearing all day. So at the end of the day, when he said, "Oh, damn it," I really didn't tell him not to do it. And, I haven't solely made up my mind on how I want to approach that, but I am trying to decide how and what I want to be as a parent in the swearing aspect. So, anywho, that happened and it made me realize that this would be a good time because I had that little story for you to tell you about my pregnancy journey. And then next week, I'm going to go into my parenting journey. So I'm sorry if this isn't really your forte, if this isn't really a topic you're interested in. But if it is, stick around. If it isn't, maybe share to someone who is interested in pregnancy stories and journeys and parenting stories and journeys. But I promise you that I will be able to reach every type of audience. So if I'm not reaching you this week, maybe next week or maybe the week after, and I will reach you eventually. So without further ado, let's get started into my pregnancy journey. Okay. Here we go. So, if you're watching the visual today, or if you're listening to Spotify, Apple, and you want to watch the visual, the link will be below. And you guys will probably notice that my camera quality is a little bit better. And that's because I went ahead and spent $1,300 on a camera. I love that for myself. No, actually it's an iPad, but I really like it, and I can't wait to continue to use it, and hopefully it will do better justice than the equipment I was using before. Another thing below is there's a couple different Google Docs forms. One is Tell Me a Secret. I really want to do a fun episode where you guys go into this Google Docs forms and you tell me a juicy secret that will make me cringe, that will make me laugh, that will be a secret that you've never told anyone before. And what's fun about that is you fill out this Google Docs form and it gets submitted anonymously, so I can't see who it's from, and I will read these secrets off on an episode, and obviously whoever's listening is not going to know who it's from. I won't know who it's from. The only person who will know is if you listen and it's your secret is you. So that's pretty awesome, but it's kind of fun to hear what other sneaky stuff people are hiding. Another thing is there's another Google Docs form that's going to be ask me questions, so I can do a whole nother episode on questions that you guys have for me, and you guys can get to know me a little bit better, and I will answer those for you. Third thing, last but not least, is I'm reviewing this Sugar Advanced Therapy Recovery Lip Mask. If you're watching the visual, it looks like a little Carmex. It also comes in a chapstick form. It's on Amazon currently for $28.98, and I have always struggled with chapped lips or them just not being soft or things like that. So I've always been trying new lip masks, and I did a review in a couple YouTube videos ago, and I finished that, and so I wanted to try this new one. So far I like it. So far so good. But I would like for you guys to try it and tell me what you think. It's actually one of the top rated that is out right now. So if you want your lips to be soft and smooth for yourself, for your mans, for your girl, for whoever, go get you some lip masks. All right, pregnancy journey. So I am 25 years old, so let's take a journey back. Let's take a trip down memory lane, and let's do this. So I got pregnant when I was 21, I believe. I just turned 21. And at the time, I was in school, and I was doing my bachelor's program. I didn't really have a lot of friends. I didn't have hobbies. I just worked and went to school, and that was about it. So getting pregnant didn't really scare me. It is what it is. So I got pregnant, freshly turning 21, so I wasn't able to really enjoy being 21, doing all the bar hopping, the partying, and this, that, the other, because I became pregnant. When I became pregnant, I was 130 pounds, and I believe I got up to like 170, 175, maybe 180. I gained like sort of a lot of weight, but everyone said like it was just my belly. I got really, really big. I had people ask me like, oh, are you having twins? And I'm like, no, I'm not. So I got really big. I was really uncomfortable. And in the first trimester, I found out I was pregnant at 5 a.m. I had to be at work at 6 a.m. So I got up at 5. I was probably, I think, 4 days late on my period, and I was like, oh, shit. But I took the pregnancy test, and it was positive within, like, 2 seconds, 0.2 seconds, and that line was dark. So I call the person up, and for reference, I'm probably never going to use names on podcast just because I have a lot of friends or boyfriend or husband or whatever I have, like, I obviously want to be unfiltered, but I also don't want to give out their personal information because that's their personal information. Anywho, I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And that's how that news was broke. Nothing cute about it, even though I've always been that person that was like, oh, I'm going to be so cute. Yeah, that didn't happen. At 5 a.m, you ain't cute. Okay, and so the first trimester is there, and you guys, I have the worst morning sickness. Not even through just the first trimester, but I was sick through my entire pregnancy. Now, when I mean sick, like puking, throwing up, it was god awful. But I am lucky I didn't get a few women that I know have came down with this one thing. I don't even know what the diagnosis is, but it's when you're like extremely sick, like hospitalization sick from puking too much and stuff. I didn't get to that extent, thank God. But the the um the nausea and the throwing up and all that is awful. It's awful. And it was something that never really went away. And another thing with my pregnancy journey is a lot of people talk about food cravings. So you'll always hear, like, oh, pregnant women crave the weirdest stuff. But for me, it was opposite. So I didn't have food cravings, I had food aversions, which means instead of a food sounding good, a food sounds terrible to the point if I heard the name, I would puke. So I remember Chick-fil-A used to be one of my worst food aversions, that if someone even mentioned Chick-fil-A, I'd be running to the bathroom throwing up. And it took me till about, I just ate Chick-fil-A this year, so 3 years later, to get over that food aversion, which is weird because you think once you don't become pregnant anymore, everything will go back to normal, but sometimes it's not like that. So it took me 3 years past having my child to get over that food aversion. Let's see, another terrible thing that I went through during pregnancy was my sense of smell. It was awful. Like, I smelt every little thing, and I was very, very sensitive to scents, and scents that I would like before would make me throw up now, or like not now, but like when I was pregnant. So that was weird. I was still working out, and everyone told me, not everyone, like my doctor, you need to watch your heart rate, make sure it doesn't get up above this. And looking back, this sounds so bad, but I wish I wouldn't have listened to her, just because I was so used to working out 5 days a week and lifting heavy, and that's kind of what my body was used to. And I hear a lot of doctors say now, like, you can do whatever you want as long as your body was used to it before pregnancy. So if you were a swimmer, once you get pregnant, keep swimming. Now, for example, for me, I wasn't a swimmer. So once I get pregnant, the doctors don't advise you go into a new hobby, a new sport. Only do what your body's used to. So I was used to lifting. I should have discontinued lifting the way I was, but instead I was watching my heart rate, which really slowed me down, because then I would watch my heart rate on, not an Apple Watch, but it was like I don't even remember the name of it, but anywho, I would watch my heart rate and I would see that my heart rate would spike like randomly throughout the day, and I would be like out of breath. So I talked to my doctor about it, and she decided to put me on these little like sticky pad things that I would stick all over my body, and it would monitor my heart rate to make sure everything was okay. And I was on that stupid machine for weeks. They were so uncomfortable and it was awful. And in conclusion, it was concluded that my child gave my heart like a heart murmur, which I guess is common. I don't really know, but it wasn't anything that they were really too concerned about. So I just had like a minor heart murmur, no big deal. But I kind of wish I never would have said anything, just because it turned out to be nothing and I had to go through all those machines for nothing. But anywho, so my overall pregnancy was great. I had no issues. I had no, just like crazy scare. Oh, actually, you know what? I did have some crazy scares. So in the beginning of my pregnancy, again, in the first trimester, I kept bleeding. I'm sorry if this is like graphic or TMI, but sorry, that's my podcast. So in the first trimester, I kept bleeding like bright red blood, and every single time I would call the doctor because I thought I was having I'm sorry, trigger warning. I should have told you all that. I thought I had like a miscarriage, because it was like bright red blood and I was bleeding. So I would call my doctor. I would tell her, she's like, you really need to go to the hospital. So I would go to the hospital. They would check me out and everything was good. I went back, I think in my first trimester, I went to the hospital like 3 times due to this bright red blood bleeding. And everything was fine every single time. And then eventually my doctor was like, hey, if this happens again, like, don't even worry about going in, because I think this is just your body's way of handling pregnancy in the first trimester. Everyone's body's different. So she was like, I'm comfortable to conclude that this type of bleeding for you is normal at this point in pregnancy. So that was scary at first, but then she deemed it as normal for my body and I was good to go. So other than that, I don't think I had any other big scares. I do remember pretty vividly, I was at church and my pastor had come up to me and he said, I got a word from God and I feel the need to pray over your baby. And I said, okay, which that's like very, that's very, like, that's a lot of weight. That's like very emotional to hear that your pastor feels like he has this need to pray over your unborn child, because you don't know, like, is those prayers for a reason? If something gonna happen, like, you don't know. So that happened. And then a different time at church, this girl came up to me and she said, hey, I feel the need to talk to you about something. And she said, I feel the need to tell you, like, my story. I had my daughter the same age that you're having your son, and I just feel the need to tell you that it's gonna be okay and you're gonna get through it and you're gonna be strong, you're gonna get stronger, but everything is gonna be okay. And this was a separate time, so that was very, like, weighs heavy on me, because you're having these people come up to you from a spiritual point of view, spiritual leading point of view, telling you, hey, I have this feeling regarding your son that is in your body growing and you're doing the best you can to grow this healthy baby. So anywho, nothing too concerning with my pregnancy other than those. Another side note, switching gears, y'all, my boobs got huge. I missed my pregnancy boobs, actually. So before I got pregnant, I was like a small C, like a bigger B. And I remember, like, none of my bras fit me. So I, like, went to Victoria's Secret and she was fitting me and she measured me and she was, like, in the room with me, with my belly. And she's like, I think you're like a 32 double D. Or she said a 32D, and I was like, oh, I've never been a D before. So she puts the D on, she's like, oh, absolutely not. This is way too small. So then she goes to a double D, and she said, oh my gosh, girlfriend, she said, I don't even think that you should buy padding because you are a 32 triple D. And people think triple D, like, you have these ginormous boobs, but, like, the band size 32 means that you're still kind of, like, smaller. So it's not like I don't know, they were big for my body, I should say. But anywho, I miss my boobs. And then let's see, what else about my pregnancy journey? My gender reveal. So for my gender reveal, I'm extra. So, of course, for my gender reveal, I had to have a whole fireworks show, because you know me, the whole city needs to know, okay? So actually, at the time when I found out the gender, it was put into an envelope by my doctor, and I gave this envelope to my boss at the time, and I gave her money, and she went out and bought the color fireworks of the gender. So I was having a boy, so she bought blue fireworks. and we threw this party with family. We had a couple friends, but we mostly wanted it to just be family. And I remember it was very, very, very cold that night, and it was so windy, like the worst wind we've had in a long time. And I remember my family like warning me, like, it's way too cold out for fireworks and it's way too windy, like it can be dangerous. And I said, I'm sorry, but like the show must go on, right? Like, I don't care if it's hailing outside. I don't care if we have a foot of snow outside. I don't care. I don't care. The show must go on. So y'all better do this damn thing. And so they did, of course, for me. And I remember the fireworks like going up and everyone's yelling like, it's a boy, it's a boy. And it was so awesome. And that was such an exciting time because I really wanted a boy also. I grew up with all girls and I really wanted a son. So I was blessed with my son. Now, after I found out, we had to pick names. So picking names was the biggest struggle for a couple of reasons. Well, one, me and his father did not like the same names at all. But then also, we wanted to pick a name that if it was read off of a resume, that a boss or whoever wouldn't be able to tell if his name was male or female and if he was white, black, Mexican, Asian, Indian, whatever. We want it to be a very like non-identifying name. So that's kind of hard, and it's also kind of emotional when you think about it because as a mixed son being brought into this world, you have to think about, okay, even if I liked a Hispanic name, I didn't really feel comfortable naming him a Hispanic name, which sounds, like maybe like I'm not proud of that culture or what have you. Like I am, but I'm going to be raising a son in a racist world, and I have to make sure that every step I take, he is going to be ahead of the game. He is going to be protected. So I definitely took his name into high consideration. So we chose his name, and his name is Avery, and it's spelled Avery. However, we did not choose that name until he was born. So we had no name, we couldn't agree on anything. And then once he was born, we chose his name. Another aspect to his name was we decided that we didn't want anyone to know, even like our options or our choices. So when it came to names, like we might have asked people for their opinions, but we never told anyone like what names we were choosing or what names we were thinking about. We wanted it to just be very, very private to us so we could make the decisions as parents to our best judgment without outsider influences. So when he was born, everyone's like, okay, like, what's his name? And I remember holding him, and I remember looking at his dad, and I remember saying, like, okay, like, I think we should choose the first one. Like, he looks like the first one, because we had two names that we were deciding between. And he was like, yeah, he's definitely the first one. I said, okay, let's tell them. Are you ready? And we like counted to 3 and we told them, and it was like an extra surprise, like already having a baby come into this world is like a surprise, but like having that, just your name being your identifier, like that's how you are identified, is just an extra surprise that nobody knew about, and that was awesome. Anywho, sorry for getting down that rabbit hole of a fucking name, but yeah, I feel like names are important. Okay, so pregnancy. So then first trimester sick, second trimester sick, third trimester sick, however, nothing really too concerning. Then we get to obviously the very end of pregnancy. So I was due August 12th, and the week before, probably like 2 weeks before I was due, I was literally walking miles every single day. I was doing all the tricks in the book, except for castor oil. That's dangerous. Don't do that. I was drinking water, I was eating dates, I was bouncing on yoga balls, I was walking, I was doing everything in the damn book to get this child out of me. I was super big, I was so uncomfortable. I was living in a house, my mom's house at the time, who didn't have central air. So I'm in the middle of August, 9 months pregnant, with no air. Y'all, it was living hell. I was trying to get him out of me, and it just wasn't working. So August 12th comes and goes, and it's so sad. Like, nobody really talks about, I mean, I guess they do talk about it, but you don't really think it's going to happen to you. Like, you have like your due date set in your head, and in your mind you're like, I'm for sure having my baby on that day or before. Like, there's no processing that you might have to hold this child for an extra week. So August 12th comes and goes, and I ended up being pregnant for a whole other week after that. So I was pregnant until August 18th. So I was a week overdue. And funny story, I had an appointment to get induced August 19th. But he came right before that induction, thank goodness. So let's talk about my labor. So I woke up and also, you guys, like, my pregnancy was so smooth that I was going to the gym, like, all the way until I had my child. And I was going to work literally up until I had my child, past my due date, everything. Like, I was running like a fine-tuned machine. And so I woke up on August 17th, and I had cramps, but no big deal. Like, I just figured I had cramps. I don't know why. I'm pregnant as hell, like as fuck, like I'm big as fuck, like I don't know, maybe my muscles are just getting stretched out and I have fucking cramps. And so I got up and I took a shower and took my pregnant belly to work, and I'm sitting there at my desk just doing my job, and my stomach cramps started to get worse. At the time, y'all, I didn't know that they were contractions. I didn't, because they weren't like excruciating. Like, people always talk about how contractions hurt so bad and you'll know, and like, I didn't know because they weren't that bad. So I literally was just like in a mild pain, but every so often, no big deal. So I was like sitting at my job, and there was this girl next to me that I worked with, and I just kept telling her, like, dang, like, I'm getting like really uncomfortable. Like, at this point, I started having to like move positions. I was like, I don't know, like, maybe I should go in. So then it gets to be around 3:30, and at this point, I'm like, I'm too uncomfortable to sit in this chair. Like, I need to go home. So I go to tell my boss that I need to go home, and she's on the phone. So, but I'm like very uncomfortable at this point, not in pain, just uncomfortable. So I sent her an email saying, hey, I'm very uncomfortable. Like, I had to head out. I'm so sorry. I will keep you updated. I get home, and I go to my grandma's house, and bless her heart, my grandma had passed away a couple year ago, 1, 2 years, 3 years ago. I don't know. I don't keep track of those dates because they make me emotional. Anywho, so I went to her house, and she got me in the shower, and then I started bleeding again, which in the beginning of my pregnancy, this was normal. Like, it was normal. So I didn't really think anything of it. And then once I got to my grandma's house, I realized that these were contractions, because at this point they were definitely between 3 to 5 minutes. And my grandma helped me like labor in the shower, and I will never forget that moment. I never will forget those memories. It was so surreal. It was so surreal. Like, your body's doing this thing. You have your best friend next to you. So anywho, let me not get emotional. So then I called my doctor, and she's like, like, I really wasn't concerned with like your cramps. She said, because you described them as cramps, but I am concerned that you're bleeding at this point. It's bright red blood. Again, At this point, it was filling up like a whole pad. Like I was bleeding heavily. She's like, I need you to come in. So I go into the doctor. And she checked me and she goes, you're about to have a baby. And I'm like, okay, like, let's do this thing. She said, you are 5 centimeters dilated, going on 6 centimeters, and you're staying. And I was just like, oh my Lanta, this is happening. Because, like, it all happened so fast. Like, people told me that I would know when I was in labor, but a bitch didn't know. Like, I don't know, maybe something's wrong with my head, but I didn't know. So I went in, I was already 5 centimeters dilated. And then, but this was way before COVID. So, I was there and then called my family and I'm like, hey, like I'm staying, like y'all get up here. And I asked the hospital, I'm like, how many people can I have in the room? And they said, it's really up to your doctor. Your doctor's the one that can control, that's their room, So I was like, okay. So I had, let me count. I think I had like, I don't want to take too much time counting while I'm like podcasting. I think I had like 7 people, 6, 7, 8 people in the room, not including me. Because I wanted it to be like, I told you guys I'm extra. I wanted it to be like a whole party, like a whole celebration. Like, bitch, we're here. I'm doing this. And so we asked my doctor and she said, if you guys stay out of the way, like she said, you have a whole entourage, don't you? And I was like, I sure do. She's like, yeah, like if you guys stay out of the way, and just observe, don't step in the doctor's way, the nurse's way. She said, then I don't mind. So that was awesome. And I had made the doctors and nurses all gift bags. Not like individual gift bags, but I had this one big box and inside this it was like a cute like crate box. And I put like energy drinks, granola bars, chocolate bars, candy, like Powerade, like all these things for nurses and doctors. And so they could help themselves. And I made this like little note that was like from my son. You know how like you as a parent, you make notes from your son or your daughter. And it said like, thank you for taking care of my mommy and me. And that was really cute. And so my grandma held one of my legs. My child's father held one of my legs. And it was very surreal. And out came my baby boy with no issues, no complications during pregnancy, no anything. And it was awesome. And, after I had him, I got to thinking like, people get induced all the time, right? Like nowadays you have the choice to get induced like a week or 2 before your due date, or even if after your due date, like you have a choice to get induced right away. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think if there's a medical reason, yes, then absolutely. But if it's just because you're uncomfortable and you can't wait, I'm sorry, like boo-hoo, like your baby deserves its time in its womb to fully reach his or her full potential, full growth potential. And to take them out early for your own selfish reasons, I don't support that. Your job as a mom is to sacrifice everything for your child, even if that means you have to be uncomfortable for another week or 2. And I don't know if that sounds harsh, but that's just my opinion, right? And we can have opinions on this podcast and we can disagree and still be friends. That's why I love conversations like this. But I just don't, the pressure that you put on your body when you choose induction, the pressure that you put on the baby, the stress you put on the baby, the strain, the everything, that's not good for your comfortability, the baby's comfortability, the baby's brains, the baby's tensions, your tension. Like, that's too much going on. That's too much. And give your child enough time to be able to become its full potential before being born. And that's like, I'm so thankful to this day that I waited, because yes, my due date came and it passed, and it was so disappointing and it was so sad, but my child came when he was ready, and it was like a fast labor, and everything was smooth because he was ready. And I don't know, that's just my thoughts on it. If I were to do anything different during pregnancy, it would be a couple things. Starting off with, I think I would choose a at-home birth. Now, when I had my son, I thought, like, that's scary for your first time. Like, you don't know how your body's going to react. You don't know how your body is going to perform during labor. You don't know any of these things. So as a first-time mom, maybe not. But knowing that my body, when everything went smoothly, I think the second time, if I were to ever get there, as of right now, I don't want any more kids, by the way, so please don't ask. I would choose an at-home birth. And the reason is because I was handling my pain perfectly fine before I got to the hospital, right? I just got done telling you guys how I wasn't sure I was in labor. I was laboring myself in the shower at home. I was comfortable. I was able to, move how I want to move or whatever. And then as soon as I got to the hospital, that hospital vibe really fucked with me. It really got into my head. It really got into my comfortability. Now I'm in this room. I can't leave the room. I can't go do what I want. Like, if I was at home, I could go lay on the living room floor if I wanted. I could go lay on the kitchen floor if I wanted. I could labor on my kitchen table if I wanted. I could labor in my shower. I could do it anywhere I want. But now that you're put in this hospital room, like, you're forced to labor in this room, and you can't do anything about it because now you're stuck. And that pressure really, really got to me, and I think heightened my emotions, heightened my pain, to the point where I did end up getting epidural. I didn't mention that. But I really didn't want one, but those heightened emotions and tension, I felt led me to that. So I would choose an at-home birth. Another thing, when I was in the hospital, they really wanted me to, like, sit still in the bed and be hooked up. And I told them, like, absolutely not. I said, I will not lay down. I will not sit still. That's not how I want to labor. Like, let me walk around and let me do what I want, because that's not working for me. And I remember them, like, hooking me up, and I was getting so agitated. I was like, get me out of this fucking bed now. And they weren't listening to me, but I stood my ground. I was my own advocate. And guess what? I got to walk around my room. That's how that works. You stand up for yourself because it's your body, and you get to labor however you want. Or if you don't choose to get pregnant, that's your choice too. But side note. So then another thing I would do differently is, when I was pregnant, obviously, because that's what we're talking about, is I really watched my diet. Now, not to the extent of, like, calories and things like that, because as you guys know in my past episodes, I wasn't for that. But I did watch, like, what you're not supposed to eat when you're pregnant. Like, this raw fish, or to the extent of, like, raw eggs and mayo, or anchovies and Caesar dressing, or da-da-da-da. I didn't eat any of that, and I was very, very strict on my diet in that aspect. But I don't think I'd be strict in that aspect again if I were ever to become pregnant, because, well, you're just gonna have to wait until next week on that episode, because I have a whole theory as to what watching my diet did to my child. So, on that cliffhanger, you're going to have to come join me next week for the episode 7 of parenting, to find out why I feel eating or not eating certain types of food may have influenced my child's life. But anywho, that was a fun conversation to have with you guys. I like listening to those conversations with other people, listening to their journeys, because every woman's body is different. reacts different. Their stories are different. And it's truly an amazing, surreal experience. And I love hearing those types of experience that other mamas have. And so if that wasn't your vibe, I'm sorry, but I will tune in. I will reach you somehow, even if it wasn't this week. I appreciate you guys supporting. Fill out the Google Docs forms below. Like the video. Please, please, please download this video if you're listening to it on a podcast format. Rate this video. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys have a great Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and continue to just do you, be your advocates. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Bye.